Hi, Marilyn. Thanks for being here. Hello, Liz. Margot, how are you? Susie, Samantha.
Cost of the collection, well, I suppose, around about $150,000.
Okay, ladies, I had a little surprise announcement. And so most of this food, this is from a dumpster.
"19 Crazy Obsessions, 7 Levels." This iceberg dives into some of the most disturbing obsessions featured on TLC's My Crazy Obsession. From surviving on a diet made entirely of dumpster food to raising 5,000 Cabbage Patch Kids as if they were real children, we've gathered some of the most unsettling and at times downright disgusting fixations from the show. Let's start at the tip of the iceberg. Disclaimer. Level 1. Mustard Addict. Barry Levinson is the former Assistant Attorney General of Wisconsin who was featured in an episode of My Crazy Obsession for the one reason none of us would have guessed: his love for the condiment mustard.
This is my solace. This is everything to me.
On Season 2, Episode 6, titled Ketchup and Mustard, Barry Levinson showed up in all his yellow glory to not only showcase his love for mustard, but also promote it. He had been working as an assistant attorney general, but was pushed into a mustard addiction due to a Red Sox game. In October 1986, the Red Sox had lost the World Series against the New York Mets. Barry was completely inconsolable after the loss and had gone out for a walk to clear his head. In the pursuit of something that would give him some peace, he stumbled across a mustard aisle in an all-nighter supermarket. According to Barry, he was quite literally beckoned towards the jars by a voice in his head saying, "If you collect us, they will come." And that was the beginning of his incurable addiction to mustard collecting.
Pretty much 24/7. This is what I do every day.
He would continue his work as an assistant attorney general, but would simultaneously collect mustard jars. His collection became so large that he was forced to eventually open a unironic museum in Wisconsin called National Mustard Museum. The place holds more than 5,000 different jars of mustard, all sourced from various different locations and manufacturers. But that's not even the strangest part. Having a collection is possibly one of the most normal things a person can do. It's what Barry uses his mustard for is what's very weird. The episode showcases Barry using the condiment for not only consumption, but also for brushing his teeth and shaving. He uses tubes of mustard toothpaste and jars as shaving cream. He also shows an intense aversion to ketchup and has apparently not tasted it for 30 years.
Why would I foul something that I'm eating with ketchup? Especially when there's the option of mustard.
His obsession with it is so deep-rooted that he is easily able to tell 2,500 brands of mustard apart with just one taste. Now that is one heck of a party trick. Nevertheless, it is a somewhat pointless talent to have and has consumed Barry's life very literally. His wife on the show wishes he'd taken on some sort of therapy just to develop a little bit of tolerance for other condiments and foods. It also gets exponentially darker when Barry implies that the mustard jars actually talk to him, which basically shows it's not a harmless quirk of his, but a deeper underlying problem that needs to be figured out sooner rather than later. So while his museum business is booming, there's always a catch with cases like these. Carrot Queen. ZZ Howell was featured on Season 1, Episode 6 of My Crazy Obsession because of her decades-old long obsession with a certain vegetable, the carrot.
My name is ZZ Howell, and I'm obsessed with carrots. I have 35 carrots tattooed on my body.
According to her, her love for it began 40 years ago when she was just 4 years old. She's been consuming carrots religiously ever since then, to the point where there was a time in her life where she actually changed her skin color to orange, a harmless condition known as carotenemia, which leads to an increased orange pigment in the body known as beta-carotene. In high school, ZZ was known as the Carrot Woman. She eventually solidified her love for the vegetable by getting her entire body tattooed with it. There are 35 individual carrot tattoos on her body, including a 24-carat armband. But she did not limit herself to only eating or getting inked with her favorite vegetable. She began a carrot collection that eventually ended up with her having 1,000 distinct items as memorabilia. These items range from everyday household objects like carrot-shaped graters, plates, and candles to unique novelty pieces like special carrot plushies and furniture. One of her most prized possessions is a custom-made $4,000 carrot-shaped urn meant to keep her mother's ashes. ZZ claims she'd been saving for 4 years after her mother's passing just so she could keep her remains in a place that she feels emotionally connected to.
I know she's in a very good place because I keep her near and dear to me. And she's in here in my favorite carrot furniture.
What's even more mind-blowing is the fact that for the past 40 years, ZZ has mostly consumed only carrots. She eats them in 3 meals and cooks different dishes made entirely of them. On top of that, her son also supports her in her strange vegetable pursuit, although not as enthusiastically. ZZ claims that her son being a ginger is a divine sign that's meant to strengthen her love for carrots. According to her, no one in their entire family has ever been a redhead, so her own son having a carrot top simply cannot be a coincidence. Even with everything ZZ already has, she aspires to collect more carrot-themed items than anyone and has made it her life mission. Level 2. Ketchup Addict. Barry the Mustard Man's obsession with condiments isn't a unique, once-in-a-lifetime thing. Ralph Finch from Michigan is exactly what Barry is, except his loyalties lie with another condiment, ketchup.
Ketchup, 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 ketchup. Ketchup is ketchup. It goes with everything.
Ralph Finch was featured in the same episode as Barry for his intense love for ketchup. He's a copywriter and amateur stand-up comedian who first became addicted to the tomato sauce 44 years ago. According to Barry, his mother wasn't a very good cook, so he and his siblings had to rely on ketchup to make everything palatable.
Ketchup was important when I was growing up because my mother was a bad cook.
Eventually, the habit stuck and turned into an obsession he could not control. For the most part, Ralph's enthusiasm towards ketchup is fairly harmless. He just enjoys collecting memorabilia and likes to put it on everything he consumes, including sweets and cookies. He even puts ketchup on the side of his cat's food and prompts it to lick it off, which, by the way, is not safe for pets. Regardless, it's pretty tame. That is, until you find out that in 2007, Ralph cashed in his life insurance to fully dedicate all his assets into buying more ketchup. He used the money to find himself the rarest and most vintage bottle and crocks of the condiment. His antique bottle collection expanded to the point where he now owns 1,800 pieces of memorabilia. However, unlike other people on this list, Ralph's wife, Janet, fully supports her husband's strange quirk and sometimes even feeds into it. In the episode, Ralph and Janet dig up some very old ketchup crock pots from their collection and take it to a funeral home. They tell the officials there that they wish to have their ashes put inside these crock pots after their deaths. They even tell them to make some room for their cat so all 3 can share one crock pot turned urn.
I have one last question. This is not a religious thing. Do you like ketchup?
The entire thing is portrayed as a comical sketch in the show, but if you think about it, it is slightly concerning how much this man's life revolves around such an insignificant thing. He himself says, "It gives me pleasure. It takes a fair chunk of my life." Wig-obsessed woman. Tamis Barron's episode on the show started off fairly normal. She was introduced as a woman with a passion for collecting wigs, often dressing to match a specific theme. On its own, it's hardly unusual. In fact, in today's influencer-driven world, collecting beauty products, even hoarding them, is practically mainstream. However, with Tamis, things went a little extreme when it was revealed that she had been collecting wigs for over 20 years and had around 2,000 pieces in her wig room.
I would say I buy a new one every week. I want one of every color, of every style.
Over the past 20 years, Tamis Barron has collected more than 2,000 wigs.
Tamis shared that her love for wigs started in childhood when her aunt would pass down her old ones for her to keep. Over time, that early fascination with hair grew into a real-life passion. By her 20s, she had become a hairdresser and was finally able to fully embrace her love for weaves. That is, until that love got to a point where it couldn't be controlled anymore. Tamis now spends hours every day styling, curling, washing, and cutting her wigs. She has spent over $100,000 on them and has no plans to stop anytime soon. She's also named most of them based on her friends.
I created that myself. I like to name them after my friends. This one is the Adrian.
Tamis revealed that she never left her house without a wig on. In fact, even for a short outing, she would pack at least 3 wigs to change throughout the day. She would also dress according to the theme of the wig, not the other way around. Thankfully, most people in her life were highly supportive of her bizarre addiction. Her friends occasionally come over to her place just to put on her different wigs for fun. Additionally, her long-term boyfriend of 6 years is also fully aware of the extent of Tamis's love for her wigs. He claims to have never worn one before dating her, but is now used to them.
Before I met Tamis, I never really wore wigs. For now, I'm just putting that on the back burner for now.
However, things do take a slightly unexpected turn when the episode dives deeper into their relationship dynamic. In one quirky yet oddly sweet scene, Tamis puts on a stereotypical male outfit complete with a short wig. On the other hand, she makes her boyfriend slip into a woman's dress and long wig. The two head to a restaurant, share a dance, and have a good time. Then, in an unexpected twist of role reversal, Tamis drops to one knee to propose. It's very unconventional, sure, but it does show how deep-rooted wigs and dressing up is in Tamis's life. The last we hear of Tamis, we find out she has her own online wig shop called Barron Unlimited, where she sells her weaves in addition to other beauty products and jewelry. Level 3. Raggedy Ann. Raggedy Ann dolls and those associated with the likes of the haunted doll Annabelle have not had the most flattering reputation. While these dolls are cute, they're not exactly something one would want to flood their house with. However, Robin Amanto, with her 3,000 Raggedy Ann doll items, proves otherwise. Unlike some other entries on this list, Robin's obsession did not begin from a childhood trauma or memory. In fact, her love for her Raggedy dolls started at the ripe age of 40. On the show, she was 58 years old, which gives her just under 20 years to really go all out with it. Her obsession, however, was not just limited to collecting the dolls, but also dressing up as them.
Aw, you all look so cute. This room is my quiet place. Every morning, I have a ritual. I can come in here, I can talk to my Raggedy's, I can tell them about my day.
She is widely referred to as Raggedy Robin because of how often she dresses up as a Raggedy doll and would walk around her neighborhood. However, even that isn't as bad as what she does next. Her commitment to the craft exceeds any societal limits, which she manifests through going around every house in the vicinity to recruit people for her Raggedy cause.
She is a wonderful doll, and I collect Raggedy Ann and Andy items. I'd like to tell you about some of the virtues quick. Do you have a moment?
She goes door to door, rings their bells, and asks them to come to her house for a tea party where she would basically give her audience a lecture on Raggedy Ann dolls and their history. As cute as this sounds, we should all be aware of the fact that this is highly dangerous. Not only the part where she invites strangers to her house, but also where she herself is in a getup that might even be taken as threatening. The entire shtick goes even further when her husband Tony comes into the picture. Tony has already completely given up to his wife's compulsions and has even helped her expand her already monumental collection. But the problem here is, he's being forced into the obsession against his will. In fact, things became way more disturbing when Robin reveals that she plans on stuffing her dolls with her husband's ashes after he passes away. This, while understandably personal to the couple, does come off as disrespectful and slightly insane.
Husband Tony says he likes the joy the dolls bring his wife,
but he has felt a little outnumbered.
I have a fear that I'm going to have a nightmare of all these red-headed dolls attacking me.
On top of that, Robin has this whole ritual in her day where she spends hours setting up her dolls in a particular way and having a tea party with them. During those tea parties, she puts on her Raggedy Robin alter ego, plays music on her music box, and has entire full-blown conversations with her assembly of dolls. What's worse is that during that time, it feels very hard to identify whether Robin is doing this as a gimmick or is genuinely under the impression that her dolls are talking to her. Disturbingly, it feels a lot like the latter. So while Robin's devotion to her dolls can be seen as deeply personal, no one can deny the creepy and emotionally unstable undertones of it. But hey, if you're looking for a safer obsession, subscribing to our channel is a good place to start. Mouse Mania. Janet Estevez appeared in My Crazy Obsession for her love for the Disney character Mickey Mouse. While she had been obsessed with him since childhood, her real compulsion began in 1974 when her husband took her out to Disneyland for their honeymoon. That was when Janet fell in love with the character and decided to turn her entire life upside down for him.
He's everything you want in a perfect person. I'm not crazy, but I do have an obsession with Mickey Mouse, I have to admit it.
For 30 years, she dedicated her life to collecting some of the most insignificant and mundane Mickey Mouse merch and memorabilia. Things like random stickers, pictures, flimsy keychains are all treasure for Janet. Her obsession takes a wild turn when it's revealed in the episode that she has been to Disneyland more than 200 times. In fact, she continues to one-up herself and has religiously visited the Mickey Mouse Theater 3 times every week. Initially, when she first fell in love with Mickey Mouse, her husband didn't think much of it. He promised her he was going to bring her to Disneyland every year. However, they were living in Puerto Rico at the time and had to travel more than 1,000 miles to do so. Eventually, she pushed her husband into moving to a place that was only a few hours away from the theme park. Even then, Janet wasn't satisfied because she couldn't go there every day. She eventually uprooted her entire family and moved them to a condo in Celebration, Florida, which was only 10 minutes away from her favorite place. But even that isn't the strangest part in all of this. The strangest part, and definitely the more unsettling aspect of it, is the fact that Janet genuinely believes she has an emotional and romantic relationship with the cartoon mouse. She's quite literally jealous of the Minnie Mouse mascots at the theater and fully believes the Mickey Mouse mascot is real.
She doesn't admit it, but I think she's a little jealous of Minnie.
Mickey is my mouse friend, and I'm his girlfriend.
She walks around supermarkets not only to collect more memorabilia, but also to get her hands on certain Mickey Mouse signs that are part of the infrastructure. In fact, in the episode, you can clearly see her begging a supermarket employee to give her the Mickey Mouse sign on one of their aisles. When the employee refuses, she throws a full-blown tantrum.
I'll have to talk to somebody to see if I can get that display.
No, unfortunately, we don't give away our signs.
Don't tell me that. Where do you put them?
I'm sorry, I apologize.
I want to find them. I want to find them.
Additionally, Janet refuses to throw away any of her Mickey Mouse collectibles, no matter how bad of shape they're in. In 2006, she had a Guinness World Record for having the largest documented Mickey Mouse collection. That particular record was broken twice by Janet herself. By 2016, she had over 10,000 different items, including puzzles, plushies, keychains, and even antenna toppers and gold balls. And while her family does try to accommodate her as much as they can, there are times when even they have their limits. Her daughter has reportedly called her hobby a sickness. Janet herself acknowledges that it's a disease, but refuses to get help. Little Merman. Eric Descharmes was featured in episode 2 of the second season of My Crazy Obsession. At the time, he was a 22-year-old with an intense love for mermaids. However, with Eric's obsession, things got a bit more practical. Instead of wasting hundreds and thousands of dollars on mermobilia, Eric took a more artistic route. He manifested his love for mermaids by designing his own mermaid tails and acting out the part. His devotion to the mythical creature was so intense that he was willing to change his entire lifestyle in order to stay true to it. In the episode, Eric says that he's been obsessed with the idea of mermaids since his parents first took him to Weeki Wachee Springs State Park.
My fascination with mermaids started when I was just a really young kid. My grandparents used to take me to Weeki Wachee Springs, which is a mermaid amusement park in Florida.
This was when he was only 3 years old. At the age of 6, he began designing his own mermaid tails with plastic bags and leftover cloth. At the time, his mother thought it was just a phase and that he would grow out of it after a few years. But even now, Eric is just as much into mermaids as he was decades earlier.
He says, I'm trying to make a mermaid tail. I was like, he's gonna be fine. It's just a fad. He'll get through this. He'll get interested in other things. And it turned out not to be a fad.
Unlike other people in this iceberg, Eric decided he was going to pursue his dreams of becoming a mermaid. At the age of 16, he played the role of the prince from My Little Mermaid at the Weeki Wachee Springs, making it his first successful win at achieving his dreams. Eric's tails are all handmade. He's set up his tail studio in his garage and spends around 50 hours a week there perfecting the most realistic mermaid tails. Additionally, on the show, he's said to drive 2 hours every 3 weeks to free dive with his designed tails in the Florida Springs. His mother and his partner, while considerably worried for him, are also extremely supportive of his dreams. On the show, he also auditions for a role at a nearby mermaid aquarium, but fails. According to the judges, his performance is a bit too realistic and sensual for kids who simply want bright colors and big smiles. Also, his tail is considerably more lifelike and darker than what people at the aquarium are used to. So while most people fail because of being bad, Eric failed because he was too good.
Unfortunately, at this time, the aquarium just doesn't have a demand for mermen to join our team of mermaids.
Thankfully, Eric would eventually go on to open his own mermaid tailoring business and would later become one of the most accomplished mermaid tail designers in the industry. But that did not come without its own sacrifices and sob stories. Troll Takeover. Michelle Cairns appeared on episode 8 of season 2 because of her very unusual obsession with an object most people would consider unpleasant to look at. However, for Michelle, her love for troll dolls began precisely because
they're so ugly that they're cute.
She's a gymnastics instructor from Los Angeles who began collecting trolls when she was only 10 years old. Her first troll doll was a gift from her best friend and is still with her to this day. She currently has a massive library of these dolls that offer 3,000 different variations. This collection spans dozens of styles and years, with the oldest doll being from the 1960s.
This one's a special one because my really good friend Al made this for me when I thought I would never have a two-headed troll way back in the day.
Her collection is so large that it occupies multiple spaces in her house, to her family's dismay. She's converted an entire spare bedroom into her troll sanctuary where she spends hours on end dressing up and playing with her dolls. She also keeps her collection in closets, in her daughter's bedroom, and even in the refrigerator. Michelle's attachment to the dolls goes well beyond display. She owns multiple troll-themed clothing, including a bikini, which she actively wears at work. Her most uncanny possession is a troll mask that she dons on whenever she wears her bikini. While her family does find it hilarious, it's also slightly unsettling and weirdly graphic.
My mom is crazy obsessed with troll dolls. She's been collecting troll dolls before I was born. It's kind of everywhere.
Her dedication to her collection forces her to visit pawn shops and stores at least 4 times a week. Her ultimate goal is to find every troll doll, unique or not, and add it to her collection. This has drastically soured the relationship between her and her husband. Her troll dolls not only occupy their house, but also her mind. On the show, she admits that she wants to turn his man cave into another room for her trolls. While this obsession is fairly harmless to most people around her, Michelle's life is shaped by this collection in a way that blurs boundaries between hobby and everyday reality. Level 4. Newborn Baby Dolls. Lynn Katsaris lives in Arizona and has spent over a decade building a collection of lifelike vinyl dolls. Unlike so many other entries in this iceberg, she doesn't just collect the dolls, but actually makes them from scratch. For her, these dolls are her reborn babies she makes from kits or molds. She paints them layer by layer and even adds freckles, spit bubbles, and even drool to their faces. She also buys extremely expensive mohair for them that she roots into the doll's scalp strand by strand. For her, realism is essential. The goal is for each doll to look and feel like a real newborn.
Realism, that's the goal. The more realism you can get, the better it is.
In the My Crazy Obsession episode, viewers see how often Lynn works on these dolls. She has around 1,800 of these dolls in her house, all handmade by her. The show reveals that while it takes an average artist a long time to create a doll with this much realism, it takes Lynn only 1 day. All her dolls have their own unique name, personality, and a reason for existing. One was named after her own son because it reminded her of him.
He looks like my oldest son, Bobby, so I named him Bobby. This little one we call Egghead because of the shape of his head.
She admitted to spending around $25,000 on materials and devoted 10 to 15 hours a week to this work. Her process for inspiration, however, is slightly unhinged and maybe even problematic. In the show, she reveals that in order to get more ideas for her dolls, she frequently visits maternity wards to study how newborns look, move, and breathe. Or at least she did before she got banned and they threatened to call the cops on her. The weirdest thing is, Lynn cannot seem to figure out why this is a bad thing.
I don't know why, all the nerve.
While she doesn't actively sell her pieces, she does partake in voluntary work occasionally. In the episode, she's shown to make a baby Jesus doll for the local church. And in a slightly deranged twist, is also asked to copy an actual baby because that child's grandmother wishes to immortalize his infant days. So again, while most of Lynn's work is considerably harmless, the disturbing undertones of it just cannot be denied. Flashback to the 50s. Doris Mayday is a Las Vegas-born pinup model who appeared in the My Crazy Obsession episode House of Dolls and Flashback to the 50s. She's known for living her life in the 1950s, not as a tribute to its culture, but literally as though the 1950s never ended. Everything she owns and does, including her wardrobe, home, car, and daily routine, is scarily rooted in that era.
Everything I own is made between 1949 and 1959. From my couch, even my TV, my kitchen table, my bedroom set, my curtains, everything is 1950s.
Her connection to that era began when she was introduced to black and white films and 50s music by her parents. As a kid, Doris was slightly overweight, which got her extensively bullied by her peers. She felt out of place everywhere, and the 1950s aesthetics were the only thing that gave her a sense of belonging. To her, the societies of those years were classy, soft, and respectful, something she was having trouble finding in her own life.
So I have my 50s bubble just because I don't really like what my generation does. I don't like their music. I usually don't like the way that they treat people. I don't like the way they dress.
Her dedication to vintage living extends to every aspect of her home. Every item, including decor and electronics, is from the 1950s. In fact, Doris is fanatically against the idea of using technology and even stops her boyfriend from using a phone. Her wardrobe entirely consists of clothes thrifted and bought from the 1930s through the 1950s. She refuses to wear anything modern and is fine with putting herself through inconvenience if it means staying true to her lifestyle. In the episode, she's even shown wearing plastic bags over her shoes instead of switching to modern footwear.
Today, it's an 8.5, and so she's had to improvise.
I'd rather get frostbite on my toes than wearing some ugly modern boot.
She says she'd rather get frostbite than put on something ugly from the current fashion trends. At times, it almost stops being quirky and starts feeling a little unnatural. But hey, as long as she's not supporting the part of the 50s that was, pretty against civil rights, you go ahead and live your best life, Doris. Level 5. Eating from a dumpster. Kelly Athena's habit of dumpster diving does not stem from advocacy for some social cause or financial restraints. It simply comes from the fact that she likes doing it and has been doing it for 4 years.
Hi, I'm Kelly Athena, and I'm obsessed with rescuing food from dumpsters.
Her dumpster diving hobby isn't just a phase or a side habit she does for the environment. Her entire dietary regime consists of dumpster food she has rescued. In fact, for the past 4 years since she started her little obsession, Kelly has not spent a single dollar on groceries. Everything in her pantry comes from the dumpster and is expired or rotten one way or another. It's her only form of nourishment and is portrayed as a lifestyle that she plans to maintain long term. Or at least that's how it's portrayed in the show. Because her particular segment provides no real backstory, neither does it hint towards some ideological commitment. All she says throughout the episode is that she's rescuing the food.
Most people think I'm the crazy one because I'm going to the dumpster, rescuing stuff, and eating it.
And frankly, this can be looked at as a commendable effort to reduce waste and save more money. In fact, it's revealed that she saved around $125,000 worth of food in her dumpster excursions. But it gets morally gray when it's revealed that she feeds her husband and her guests the same salvaged food against their will. In the episode, she's seen hosting a dinner party where she feeds her guests a 4-month-old pizza topped with cheese that has gone bad 2 weeks ago. She blurs the lines drastically between consent and only reveals to them her little secret after they've consumed the food.
Okay, ladies, I had a little surprise announcement. And so most of this food, this is from a dumpster. Yes.
Her husband does not show the same enthusiasm for her dumpster diving. He even chooses to stay anonymous throughout the segment because he's embarrassed of her habits and refuses to be associated with her. He claims that he's scared the police will catch her salvaging through one of the dumpsters and she'll get in trouble. While she does extensively claim most of it is fresh and fine, the labels on them say otherwise. And say what you want about the validity of expiration dates, but have you ever smelled a dumpster? It smells almost as bad as Subway. And frankly, I'm not eating food from either. A man who loves eating bugs. If you thought dumpster diving and eating bad food was weird, wait till you meet David Gracer, an English teacher from Providence, Rhode Island who has gained notoriety not for his great teaching skills, but because his diet has consisted solely of bugs for the past 12 years.
Of the few species of cockroaches that I've had, these are tastier than the others, and they're very crunchy.
David's segment in My Crazy Obsession also begins with little to no background on his strange habit. He's been eating insects as a daily routine for many years and has no plans to stop. In fact, in the show, he claims to have eaten at least 5,000 different species of creepy crawlies. These include various types of cockroaches, scorpions, fly pupae, and grasshoppers. Every week, he goes out with his handy-dandy insect net and collects as many insects as he can find. In order to prepare for consumption, David doesn't kill them in the traditional way, but freezes them to induce a painless death. He then either eats them or stores them in his basement freezer.
I've had some success with taking one of these guys and putting it on a leaf of endive with a nice little scoop of goat cheese and a drizzle of honey.
During the time he was featured on the show, David claimed to have around 12,000 bugs in his freezer. All of them were stored in Ziploc bags and looked as unappetizing as it sounds. He's well aware of the fact that this makes him stand out and even be labeled as crazy among his peers. However, his argument for consuming land bugs is the fact that eating sea bugs like lobsters and shrimp is okay. Why do people show a double standard with land bugs? He cannot stand behind the idea of one type being broadly accepted while others are being shunned. Personally, I don't like either. Even beyond the show, David has very actively advocated for entomophagy, the act of eating bugs. He's given multiple fairly influential talks at theaters and has even appeared on platforms like TEDx Cambridge.
And what you'll find is that On the strict numbers, insects will compete with or outcompete any food that you care.
For him, eating insects isn't an obsession, it's an awareness campaign for a more sustainable and efficient form of protein. He takes the example of a grasshopper. It's a nutritionally rich form of protein that is lower in fats and higher in vitamins compared to other forms of meat. He says that insect farming is far more viable and climatically beneficial than, say, raising cows and other livestock. Despite his fairly understandable perspective, his wife just cannot seem to get on board with his lifestyle. She's scared it's already turned into an obsession he cannot control, and most of what we see in the episode sort of testifies to her fears. It's almost like David just can't help but eat bugs. Level 6. The woman who loves rats more than people. Chantel Banks was featured in the first episode of Season 2 of My Crazy Obsession, not because of some strange memorabilia collection or obsession with eating something unconventional, but because she was in love with rats.
My name is Chantel Banks, and I'm crazy obsessed about my rats.
On the show, Chantel is a middle-aged woman who shares her 2-bedroom apartment with 19 of her pet rats. All 19 of them are named and have quirks that only Chantel can tell apart. She calls them her extended family, going as far as saying that she loves rats more than she loves people.
I do.
This can be proven from the fact that before Chantel lived alone, she was married for 11 years. However, when her husband simply could not accept her growing rat family, he gave her a choice. Chantel decided the best course of action would be to move out with her animals to a place where they won't be judged, even by the people closest to them. She believes they offer her a kind of acceptance no human can. My rats don't judge me. When I cry, they lick my tears. In the apartment, Chantel lives with her 16-year-old son, who apparently likes her rats just as much as she does. Apart from the very big elephant in the room about her parents' doomed relationship, things are fine for the most part. However, in a slightly triggering scene in the episode, Chantel's husband asks her when they're going to get back together. It is a sentiment that she dismisses entirely.
Hopefully this is a short-term arrangement that we've got here now, and then we can get back together.
You know what? Your dreams of hoping that our marriage is going to work out are going to be completely shattered.
Again, all of Chantel's rats have their own names and are defined by their own quirks. Burger likes to eat, Janice loves to kiss, Lily is my jumper. However, naturally, with pets as small and prone to diseases as rats, the caretaking isn't only limited to emotional sentiments. Taking medical care of each and every one of Chantel's rats has cost her over $10,000, a number that just keeps on growing. On her segment on the show, she's shown to take one of her female rats to the vet because of a life-threatening tumor. While the surgery is initially successful, the rat Blossom does eventually end up passing away. It's an event that's both distressing to witness through the scene and also very mentally taxing to go through in real life. Chantel and even her son are clearly distraught after the passing of their beloved pet. This just goes to show that while people are judging Chantel for her life choices, the dedication she has shown to these creatures is commendable. She positions herself as extremely devoted to them to the point where she's willing to sacrifice anything to make sure they're okay. Whether that's disturbing or admirable is completely up to you to decide. Woman spends 10 hours a day looking for celebrities. Vanessa Sky Ellis, featured on Season 2, Episode 2 of My Crazy Obsession, was a 25-year-old bartender from New York who built her life around collecting celebrity pictures.
This whole entire box is full of a whole bunch of photos of celebrities, and I have about 20, 30 different boxes.
However, the difference between her and other celebrity collectors is the fact that Vanessa didn't indulge in posters or merch. She actually made it her life mission to go and personally meet celebrities to snap a picture with them. On the episode, she's portrayed as a celebrity spotter who does bartending at night simply because she needs her daytime free. And that to follow celebrities around and ask for their autographs and pictures.
Can I get a quick photo with? Thank you. Bye-bye.
Vanessa's little hobby was a direct result of her mother being a very prominent celebrity spotter as well. She recalls that her mother would go out in the early hours of the morning and wouldn't return for hours until she actually got her celebrity picture. Sadly, her mother passed away 6 years before the episode aired, ending up with Vanessa inheriting that habit. So, in a strange, twisted way, Vanessa does what she does as a way to keep her mother's memory alive. We can clearly see from her interview how much her mother's death is still affecting her.
She always lived her life to the fullest. So through her, I always want to make sure that I live my life to the fullest.
To be quite honest, Vanessa doesn't really come off as creepy or predatory. Whenever she meets a celebrity, she's very respectful towards them and keeps a distance so as not to make them uncomfortable. However, that is not the detrimental part of her obsession. It's the part where she spends almost 12 hours every day in order to spot any celebrity she can recognize. She doesn't distinguish between the types. They could be A-listers, B-listers, and even C-listers. In fact, her catalog of more than 10,000 pictures includes politicians, sportsmen, and anyone remotely famous. Her collection of 10,000 pictures is divided into more than 40 boxes littered all throughout her apartment. Her obsession is so surreal that she even packs adult diapers with her in order to not miss any moment with her celebrity. She follows more than 200 famous people on her social media and is fully integrated into the very meticulous paparazzi system in New York. She's made certain connections that inform her of her target's whereabouts. So naturally, no matter how normal she tries to come across, this intense need for validation from a popular stranger is not okay. So much so that she bases her entire life around doing it. People on the internet have mixed reactions about her behavior. Some find her dangerous and stalkerish, while others find what she does harmless with a quirky obsession. Ultimately, the principle of the entire act just does not sit right with people. Raising dolls as their own son. Collecting in itself isn't dangerous and can even be considered a fairly productive hobby. However, when that hobby starts affecting your real life to the point where you cannot differentiate between fiction and reality, that's where things really start getting messed up. Pat and Joe Posey were featured in the first episode of the first season of My Crazy Obsession for their complete devotion to collecting Cabbage Patch Kids dolls. At first, the segment seems like a typical entry for the show, but things take a dark turn when it was revealed that the couple genuinely believed their Cabbage Patch dolls were their real kids.
Good morning, kids. Let's make sure everybody's okay here.
Did you guys behave yourself last night?
Everything became even more wild when their collection of 5,000 tiny dolls was shown. In the show, Pat and Joe shared that they currently have around 5,000 to 6,000 Cabbage Patch Kids in their house, all named and accounted for. Their obsession first began in 1986 and has only grown to an extreme since. They've been treating these dolls as their real kids to the extent that in their house, they're not allowed to use the word dolls for them. Both Pat and Joe refer to them as their children and actively converse with them like one would with a child.
Okay, guys, now I don't want you up all night.
We won't be, we
Okay,
promise.
we'll see you in the morning. Good night.
Their 6,000 kids have their own buildings that cost them more than $200,000 to build. In fact, Joe reveals on the show that they've spent well over $1 million on their babies. The upkeep alone for these dolls costs them $1,000 every month, including fees for their specialized air-conditioned rooms.
Does anybody here know how much it takes to run all of this electricity and air conditioning and...
I'll guess. A lot.
Joe and Pat themselves live in a trailer attached to the doll's warehouse. They can name and identify all 6,000 of the dolls and have given them just as much devotion as a parent would give their children. Their one adult daughter, while mostly indifferent, does seem a little bothered by her parents calling their favorite doll, Kevin, her brother. Kevin is not my brother, she clarifies. Calling their obsession as some extreme form of a collector's hobby would be an understatement. Their devotion to their dolls treads into something highly unnerving, close to the likes of almost having an identity crisis. Level 7. The Amazing Squirrel. Kelly Foxton from Florida is a former country singer who was featured on My Crazy Obsession because of her unusual fixation on her pet squirrel called Sugarbush. Her segment starts off as quite tame and only presents Kelly as a normal, albeit somewhat eccentric, exotic pet owner. However, the more you advance through it, the more you realize there is something inherently odd about the way Kelly treats her squirrel. Kelly reveals on the show that her obsession with squirrels started when she was just a child. Her father had once brought home a baby flying squirrel for her to take care of, and her little habit boiled into her adulthood life, where she rescued a baby squirrel in 2001 and named her Sugarbush.
And my father brought home a little baby flying squirrel to me one day, and I fell in love, and I've had that love ever since.
However, what started as caring for an animal turned into a full-blown lifestyle centered around photographing the squirrel in hundreds of costumes and elaborate sets, something that makes even the most seasoned models uncomfortable and unhappy. Foxton and her husband both claim that they treat the squirrel as their child.
We give Sugarbush as much love as anybody, I think, could give any kid or any child. I think it was probably the right fit for both of us.
But frankly, the image portrayed on the show was more of a prop than a living being. In fact, Kelly particularly treats Sugarbush as some sort of celebrity rather than a pet. Her husband, on the other hand, works 3 high-end jobs to support her addiction while getting the squirrel all bejeweled and dressed up. Despite that, there are still times when they struggle financially because of the sheer amount of money Kelly spends on Sugarbush's aesthetics. She herself claims she spent almost $500,000 on the outfits, photo shoots, and props. The entire living room and multiple spare rooms have been collectively turned into a photo studio for the squirrel's photo shoots. Where she would dress it up and somehow make it pose in different ways for the camera, the squirrel often dressed up as everything from historical figures to holiday mascots. A normal question that would come out of an obsession this intense would be, what would happen if Sugarbush was to inevitably pass away? Well, it turns out that Kelly has had multiple Sugarbushes over the past couple of years who somehow happened to die. She's created a small cemetery for them in her backyard where she takes the current Sugarbush every day to pay respects.
We're gonna pay our respects and visit all the other little squirrels in their little cemetery. You wanna say goodbye to all the baby squirrels that died before you?
So, it's safe to assume that Kelly's emotional loyalties do not lie with the pet itself, but what it can do as a prop. And although the Sugarbush's pictures are adorable beyond doubt, they do not take away from the unsettling nature of this strange segment. Kelly has not only blurred the line between devotion and dependency, but has also taken animal exploitation to an entirely new level. The Smiths' family obsession with taxidermy. Joe Smith and his family became infamous after appearing on the show My Crazy Obsession, where their unusual dedication to taxidermy left many viewers unsettled. Unlike casual collectors or professional taxidermists, the Smiths are a trio of self-taught professionals who do what they do simply because they're compelled to. The worst part is they don't preserve animals for the sake of it, meaning they're not some kind of nature lovers who perform taxidermy as respect to deceased animals. They're active hunters who kill animals just so they can stuff them and display them in their living room. In other words, their little hobby is simply a cruel excuse for them to kill more animals.
The true reason for taxidermy, I believe, is making the life of the animal continue on. You're basically bringing them back to life almost like a mortician would to a person.
To me, now this animal can never die.
They claim doing taxidermy is a way to honor and keep a particular animal's spirit alive even after its death. But that's highly contradictory considering they kill it only for the sake of practicing their morbid hobby. The Smiths have turned their home into a showcase of preserved animals and have filled nearly every room with mounted creatures. Their son Tanner is in charge of skinning the animal they've hunted, Joe is responsible for mounting the animal on a showpiece, and Fonda does the less violent work of retouching the dead animal and giving it some life by painting over it. All 3 people take pride in the process and treat it as both an art form and a lifestyle.
Fonda will take over in completing the animal, making it look as lifelike as possible.
In the mounting process, I do a lot of the finish work, which is adding the details.
They've killed everything from little rodents to lions and wolves, simply to put them up as props in their already fairly crowded house. When the episode was aired, these three had amassed around 213 dead animal carcasses that were thrown all around their house. Despite knowing how macabre and morbid this is, Joe and his family keep defending his passion, but no one can deny that the entire thing is not only disturbing, but also consumed the Smith family's dynamics. It's an unrelenting obsession that comes with a massive cost no one can and should rationalize. If you're still curious about more bizarre obsessions, why not dive into our Iceberg on My Strange Addiction?